we've been struggling with COVID now for about a year and a half. What are some appropriate use cases you've seen that would constitute legit tech, where DLTs, and just to be clear for those of you who don't know what that means, is distributed ledger technology. Blockchain is not the only way to do it. There are other ways to do it, and that's what DLT stands for. But what is the appropriate ways, legit tech that's been applied in the context of COVID? And what were some things that you saw where you went, something about this seems fishy? And we don't need names, we just need context.
Yes, the innocent shall be protected.
The guilty shall be protected.
Yeah, or the guilty, depending on your point of view. So look, what can you do, like in terms of public health, not just for COVID? I think to me, the underlying kind of principle that needs to be upheld is this idea of, is the data accurate? Is it complete? Can it be trusted? Right? Because public health, and again, COVID is a very good example, is where a disease or some kind of a public, something that impacts the public, is happening, and we need to take action. We as in governments, individuals like us, communities, advocacy groups, you name it, depending on the context. So therefore, and again, COVID is a very good example, but is also, it's not by no means the only example. Ebola was a good example. Zika is another good example. Other forms of flu or whatever, where, we need to take action because lack of action or late or untimely action can lead to loss of lives, right? At its most exaggerated, and kind of worst scenario, which we've seen, unfortunately. So what I would say is really, these diseases, they don't respect boundaries of geography, time zones, political boundaries, right? They move, and we've seen it with COVID. So ultimately, you got to think, at scale, and got to think really at a global kind of perspective, which is, how do you get information about this that's accurate, that's complete, it's sent to the right people at the right time, and it's then recommendations are provided by us back to the public, so we can protect ourselves, and then governments can make the right kind of investments at the right time. So to me, all of this really comes down to this idea of, is the data, are we able to manage the data? Are we able to collect the data correctly? Are we able to then get that data, parsed and formatted and things like this and sent to the right places, such as government databases and things like this? Are epidemiologists, in case of COVID, able to get to that data in a timely manner, make recommendations that then the government agencies, essentially take action on? I'm dumbing it down, obviously.
Sure.
So it's a data problem. And again, going back to your question of like, well, where does blockchain fit? Well, my philosophy with blockchain is that it's really always data before blockchain, right? If you don't have your data kind of philosophy and your data strategy and technology sorted out, blockchain is not going to help. It's going to make it worse. It's going to give you a more restricted data kind of architecture and a immutable kind of tracking mechanism, amongst other things. But what you essentially wind up with is garbage in, tamper-proof garbage forever. That's like the worst case scenario, right? So you got to sort out data. You got to figure out, again, let's take COVID as a specific example. So This is happening right now. So as example, when you go to this mom and pop kind of like testing centers, like with these tents that are set up or in parking lots, right?
Yeah.
That's not the same as going to LabCorp with all the technologies they have and all of the back end, like electronic health record systems and reporting systems. So the question is, I'm going into this kind of pop-up clinic in a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I get a result, but then what happens next? Does the state know about my result because I need to by law? And then eventually the CDC does. But how long does that take to happen? Is it not by paper? Is it redundant? Is that data when say the CDC gets it eventually, is it in a format that they can use? And unfortunately, the answer in most of those cases is not really, right? There are issues. There's data accuracy issues. That there's data kind of completeness issues. Along the way, as the data moves, there's a high well, there's a likelihood, I'm not going to say high likelihood necessarily, there's a likelihood that that data is manipulated or, either inadvertently or intentionally, where it's no longer either accurate or in the complete manner it's supposed to be, all kinds of things like this. So those are the things that we're going to address, right? And then where blockchain can really help is okay, as the data goes from that parking lot, pop-up testing center, with the swab or the remote diagnostic testing tool or whatever it is, as it goes from there all through all of the different hops that it needs to, ultimately to CDC or to HHS for national reporting, and then back to the states as example. Can we use a technology to prove that certain actions happened, that it was really Jim who touched it at this point, and then it passed on to Darshan, and then eventually moved to this person at HHS, protect, and so on. And blockchain can do that. Blockchain can allow you to do that and allow you to have a kind of a computational way of looking at that provenance, the chain of custody, right? But if you don't have good data, if you don't fix data, kind of parsing, data aggregation, data, there's a lot, obviously, in our world of pharma, like data anonymization, removing PII, things like this. If you don't do those things correctly, well, blockchain can only show that you did those things incorrectly.